We've become so accustomed to having our phones on standby in all situations. They provide us with not only the ability to make a call, but to access vital information quickly. If the grid were to go down and you didn't have a way to charge your phone, what would you do? In this video, I'm going to show you an easy hack to charge your phone with a few items you probably already have around your house. Now, this is going to be the first in a regular series of creative preps that you can do on the cheap. If this is a series of videos you'd like to see more of, let me know with a comment below, along with any ideas that you'd like me to cover. So let's go over to our tabletop and we're going to take a quick look at a hack to charge your phone. So here we have the different items that we're going to be working with in front of us. We've got our cell phone, we've got tape, we've got a car charger, we've got a 9-volt battery, we've got a spring-loaded pin, and then we have our charging cable for our cell phone. Now, you may ask, well, if we have a car charger, why are we doing this? Because we can just plug this into a car. Well, if you don't have a car around and this is all you have, again, the point of this video is to teach you some improvisation, kind of DIY, hacky, MacGyver-ish type of skills. So we're just trying to think a little out of the box here. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to start with our 9-volt battery and we're going to start with our pin. What we'll do is we'll open up our pin and we'll grab out the spring here and we can just set the rest of the pin aside for now. All right, so on these 9-volt batteries, you've got a positive post right here. This is a smaller, and then the negative. The negative is our larger one right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to connect this spring to the negative post of our battery. And then we're going to touch the side of our car charger. And the car chargers, if you look, they have a piece of metal here, and then they have these typically two on the side. So what we want to do is have this spring stretched out far enough from this our negative post here on the battery. And if we put the end spring right, or this end part of our car charger into the positive post, like so, we then want to, again, take our spring and look to see if it's long enough to reach the side. Hopefully that's clear, but let me put this a little more clearly in camera. You can see it doesn't reach it. So what we'll do is just simply take and stretch out our spring a little. And again, try that again. So now we have a good contact on the side of our charger. All right, so what we'll do now is we'll grab a relatively short piece of tape. I've done this video take a few times. When I use long pieces of tape, I somehow always end up getting the tape to double back on itself. So what I do is I just put a piece of tape here, kind of at an angle on the side of the battery, trying to be careful to make sure that I don't cover the positive post. And then I'll just wrap it around and, again, holding that spring on the negative post. It's not exactly perfect, but it's enough to hold it in place. So as you can see, we've now got it mounted on there well enough for now. And we'll go back later and tighten it down, or rather apply a little more tape to make sure this holds securely. And by the way, this setup here is not going to be something you'll be carrying around. It's not that transportable, but it gets the job done. Now, if we revisit and bring back our charger here, putting it in the positive, and then looking here on the side, you'll see now that spring perfectly touches the side. Okay, so what do we want to do next? Well, let's go ahead and grab another relatively short piece of tape. And what I'll do is I'm going to, again, put the end of our car charger here on the positive post of the battery. And I'm going to apply this piece of tape here on the side. I'm going to try to make sure, hopefully this is clear, that negative, or that wire, that spring rather, that we took out, still touching that piece of metal on the side of our charger. It has to always be in contact, all right? So how do we test this before we really start taping this up? Let's bring our cell phone over here, and hopefully this is clear. I know there's a bit of a reflection, but here in the corner, it's going to show when we have a charge. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and get my cable here. I'm going to plug this here on the end of our cell phone. Okay. Then we'll come around on the back of the charger, plug that in. And if we plug this in, and sure enough, you'll see, hopefully, is there a reflection on that? It's starting to show a charge on my cell phone. And yeah, you can see that it's now charging. So what you've got is now you've established a charge. So what I would recommend doing is taking this and just make sure you tape the back up well enough that it's not doing what it just did right here. This fell out. But you see I've got it where it's back on the post, or rather it's back connecting that spring to the metal here. So I just want to kind of tighten this up. I've done this take a few times filming this, and it's always frustrating dealing with the tape, getting everything to sit in place. But if you're patient and you don't, again, just try to use your hand like I'm doing so, and keep, the other thing I learned is don't use long pieces of tape because they start doubling over on themselves really quick. But if you were to set this up somewhere in a, again, this is not exactly a device you're going to be carrying around. Just keep it immobilized enough, and you know, as you can see, it's now charging back up again. You can, set this down somewhere, and yeah, it's charging. So one thing to note, and I'll take this apart, is each of these battery manufacturers, they have a certain amount of capacity in the battery, and different cell phones have different storage or different battery sizes. So a battery like this on my particular phone maybe will charge a quarter of the battery, maybe a little more. But the point I'm making is that you want to make sure that you have a realistic expectation. If you're just in an emergency situation, you need enough juice to get your phone going to maybe make a call or access some data. In a pinch, a 9-volt battery with this setup will get you taken care of.